guys, so what you're about to see is the part 2 of how to communicate effectively in your relationships. If this is something that you have been enjoying, please make sure to hit that like button and hit that subscribe button. Thank you so much for watching my content, and I hope you enjoy. Alright, my third point for communicating in conflict effectively with your partner, I feel like I keep saying that in different ways, is to save it for the next day. This one is probably the most difficult for me because, and if you can relate, let me know in the comments. I am the type of girl that likes to resolve things here and now. Let's talk about it now, figure it out, let's go to bed happy, good to go, on to the next thing. Sometimes that is not the best choice. What I mean by save it for the next day is sometimes we need to give our partners and ourselves a little window of space to really process what we're talking about, what's going on. There are a lot of topics of disagreement and problem areas that cannot be solved in a day. We need a day, 2 days, sometimes even longer or even shorter, an hour, 2 hours, to really think about what we're saying, to think about the problem, to search our hearts, to pray, to figure out where we're wrong, to figure out what we need to say. Sometimes in the moment when we're all hyped up and emotional, it's not the best time to talk. One thing that I've had to learn, especially with a partner who processes differently than I do, is, hey, you know what? Let's just talk about this in 2 days, and we're just gonna put it to the side and pray about it and talk about other things, live our lives, whatever, and we're gonna talk about it on Tuesday night at Starbucks or whatever it may be. This is definitely something that I have had to learn, that I'm still really growing in accepting, because there's moments where, you know, and this goes deeper into like fearing abandonment or rejection if you don't talk about things in a certain way, or, you know, control issues that a lot of us tend to have as to why we need to have things settled right away. And what I've learned for me is that it's a great opportunity in those moments where it gives me anxiety to wait to talk about something, and discomfort and unease, is that those are the moments that I can fill in those gaps with Jesus and let him counsel me, even in anxiety, and even when those like that unease, that like what's gonna happen or what's gonna be the outcome of the situation, even when I don't know the answers to that, and that those feelings of anxiety don't lift, I can just bring it to the Lord and kind of like grieve with him and express all of my emotions with him, because that way I'm doing it to the Lord, which is where I'm supposed to let out all of those emotions and processings, versus my partner, when my partner a lot of times needs to process on his own with the Lord. Creating space really helps you so that when you do come together again and you discuss something, you're in a lot better of a headspace, you are a lot calmer, you have your thoughts together, you've prayed, your attitude maybe has changed, you have more empathy, compassion, and that way you can actually communicate effectively in whatever it is that you are discussing. And that way you're actually able to communicate with your partner in a lot healthier way than if you would have just stayed in the moment on that day when your emotions were heightened and probably said things that you regret and wish you could do it over again. And sometimes when we create that window of space and be like, okay, we're gonna save this for tomorrow, and we actually do talk to the Lord or read our Bibles or just reflect on where things are at, we realize that we didn't even need to be talking to our partners or having a discussion with them. Like all along, we just needed Jesus. We just needed some space, some alone time, some reminders, some affirmations from the Lord, from the Word, about what's true. I personally have had a lot of anxieties, different anxieties come up in my relationship, and a lot of times instead of talking it through and having a conflict or disagreement or heated discussion with my boyfriend, I just needed to go and pray, and I just needed to go affirm myself of what's true, and I needed to feel and I needed to experience God's peace and what he says, and that is the only cure I needed, versus talking to my partner and creating tension in a conversation with a lot of conflict. The last reason I really love saving the conversation for the next day is because having that window of space also gives your partner the opportunity to convict him, to bring awareness to anything that he did, right? And so a lot of times when we're in the heat of the moment and we are very prideful, we're not going to admit what we've done wrong because we're on defense mode, we're on self-protection mode. And so giving that space actually gives yourself and gives your partner that time to be like, you know what, I was wrong in these ways, or I said this in that way, or I hurt my partner in this way, and the Holy Spirit will give conviction. But when we're caught up in our flesh, you know, in relation with another person, and we're going back and forth, that's going to be a way slower process than if you actually give that space and time and then come back. And that creates for healthy apologies and healing in your relationship. My very last tip for communicating in your relationships is to get a third party involved. This is my favorite one just because I've seen the fruits of what this does to your relationship and to your conflict. Sometimes conflict and disagreements, honestly, they're just too big of situations or topics or disagreements. It depends on what it is. There's different severities, and a lot of times when something is just too big, you need a third person to get involved, and there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. In fact, it's super healthy, because when two people are so close to a situation and they are so focused on it, there's a lot of things on the outside that we can't see because we're in it. We have our own emotions and sides and perspectives. Whereas someone that's completely neutral, not in the relationship on the outside, can look at what's going on and see and hear both sides. This is amazing because a third party can make both partners feel heard and understood by explaining their feelings and actually seeing their sides, seeing their perspectives, and acknowledging, you know, what they feel. And then actually coming to a place of brainstorming solutions or tools, or again, things that we were blinded to. I love getting a third person involved because I noticed that I myself and my partner are a lot more susceptible to hearing the criticism and the correction of the third party to us rather than us telling each other. A lot of times, you know, we'll have a mentor or a therapist, you know, just flat out in a really kind and neutral sort of way tell me or my partner, like, hey, I just want you to know that this is how he might be feeling because of blah blah blah, and you know, and just telling me what it is that I might not be understanding about my boyfriend that she is able to see, and I am gonna listen way more. Sometimes we need that help of someone pointing out what we're not seeing, and to be able to transfer that connection into the connection with your partner and communicating and hearing and those healthy habits. Another reason I love bringing a third party into this is because the toxic fighting is very unnecessary if you just get a third person involved. When there is a third party, there is a lot less room for argument because there's another person involved and you're more aware of your actions and they're able to see and point out things. And so it creates more constructive and unified conversation versus just getting nowhere with emotional fighting. It saves a lot of hurts and a lot of wounds, and it's very proactive with your time and your discussions. And having a third party involved is especially helpful if the person that's involved is, first of all, older than you and wiser than you. Now, it doesn't have to be. I've definitely had best friends neutralize conversations or conflicts with my boyfriend, but I've also noticed that having mentored a married couple in our church, or my boyfriend and I's therapist, definitely is a lot more helpful than someone who maybe knows just as much as we do, because they're able to speak into things that they've experienced, that they've learned, that can help prevent, you know, the same mistakes and things that we've done. Having someone older and wiser than you, I would encourage for the best kind of communication that you want to create with your partner. One Bible verse that has really helped me when it comes to kind of the crux for me of this whole topic is Hebrews 4:15. It says, "For we do not have a high priest who is unable to empathize with our weaknesses, but we have one who has been tempted in every way just as we are, yet he did not sin." I love this verse for multiple reasons, but first, the main thing I've learned from conflict with my partner is that I want someone to understand me. I want someone to just get me and to affirm what I need. And I've placed those expectations way too high on my partner. They've always been provided for by the Lord. He wants us to come to him. He wants us to bring what frustrates us, what hurts us, what gets to us, because he empathizes, he sympathizes, he gets it, he understands. He's been human with human emotions. He's wept. I love this verse because it talks about how although he is the God of the universe and he has his place there, he does empathize with us. But it also points out how although he has been tempted in his flesh in those ways, he did not sin. In the same way, when we are communicating with our partners and we're struggling and we're tempted to put the blame on them, to emotionally speak and to sin in our speech and in our communication with them, we can know that it's possible, you know, through God's grace and through his power to not sin in our temptations. That's just one verse that was really on my heart as I was talking about this, that I really loved, that helps when it comes to the root of where conflict comes from, when it comes to those close romantic relationships and what our hearts really need, like what's really at the bottom of it. You guys, I forgot about my tea and now it's cold. Alright, well that is all for today's video. If you enjoyed these 4 tips, whether you are in a relationship, married, or not, please hit that like button. And if this is anything that you would like to keep seeing, please hit that subscribe button as well. Thank you so much for watching this video, and I will see y'all in my next one. Bye!